Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to a Fresh Stories, Book Corner, Book Talk, whatever we're calling it, Fresh Reads. We're here today with two of my internet pals, Heather and Doug, who happen to be, I'm going to say happily married, I think. And maybe they'll agree
Fair.
with me. They look like they're happily married.
So
So
far,
far,
so
so good. And they've been teasing this idea for this book for a long time. And so when they finally got it going and got it out there, I'm so excited about it. So I'm going to have them introduce themselves. I'm going to have Heather go first because we're a feminist company here.
good.
So, Heather, who are
Absolutely.
you?
I'm Heather Boneparth. I am a recovering corporate attorney, is the best way to put it, turned money writer. I also run business and legal affairs for Bonafide Wealth, a wealth management firm in New York City that was founded by my husband, Douglas Boneparth. And I am also the co-author of a brand new book called Money Together. Douglas?
Yeah, so I'm Douglas Boneparth. I'm the founder of Bonafide Wealth, a wealth management firm in New York City, as Heather said. We specialize in older millennials, if you will, but definitely catering to a younger demographic. Um, Also, the co-author of Money Together, which we're super excited about. And I also get to do a lot of media, both social media and financial media,
He's a
which is
meme lord.
I get to post memes online and poke fun at finance and personal finance. So
Mhm.
you're hopefully wondering why is that funny, and you learn a thing or two about it.
I love that so much. Okay, so let's jump into it. What is this book that is going to change people's lives coming out soon?
Our book is called Money Together, and it's all about navigating money conversations better with your partner to lead to better couple equity in the household. It's about getting both partners to the table and having the real conversations that people aren't having. Doug has been in this industry, in the personal finance industry, for a long time, 20 years at this point, and he sat across the table from you know, any number of clients who have seen the version of their partner that they've want to see, and they've
Mhm.
seen the version of their money that they want to see. And there's so much that wasn't being said. It was so clear to him on so many occasions that it wasn't really about the money, that there was a lot going on underneath the surface. And we watched a lot of that happen in our own relationship. And I got to thinking, because of my own pretty messed up relationship with money, which you will read about extensively in the book, that there's so much not only that isn't being said, but that money is directly linked to the power dynamics at play in our relationships. And
Yeah.
so much is at stake with how we approach this sensitive topic in your marriage and your relationship. And we just want to help people do it better. We want to give voices to people who feel like they've lost their voice and feel like they're not being seen.
Yes, Doug.
Yeah, on top of all of that, we know the best way to communicate to individuals is through storytelling. And I think the best part about this book are the people that we've had a chance to speak with, the real couples who have real stories to share with you, the reader. And by design, we wanted to create something where hopefully one partner, ideally both partners, but one partner comes across a story or a bit of advice from an expert, and they stop dead in their tracks and they say, "This is me," or "This is us." Calls for their spouse, calls for their, you got to get in here. You have
Yeah.
to read the paragraph. You have to read this chapter, this section, because this is us. And until now, I didn't know how to share these feelings with you. And here it is. So that cracks the door open to really hard conversations. This stuff is hard. It is inherently hard because when it comes to money, it cuts deep in our emotions. It's tied to things that have shaped who we are as people pretty much since day one. Then you meet someone 18, 25, 30, 40 years later in life, and you have to reconcile all of that against their own reconciliation of that. It is a pure dumpster fire of emotions
Yeah,
that needs to be figured out. And we're not good at, how can you be good at this? We are
you can.
literally programmed to be bad at it.
Yeah, I have so many things to say. I'm literally writing things down as you're talking. Number one, just to your point, Doug, it's not just our reconciliation, it's our family, our ancestry, right? And
Correct.
you're bringing that in, and I know from my own history on paper, my ex-husband and I looked like maybe we were from similar, like, Jewishy backgrounds. He was from Chicago, I was from New York, but he grew up actually with no money, and I grew up with money, and that was and then he got money, right, later in life, and so
Oh,
that
yeah.
was a big, issue in a lot of our values and stuff like that, and, it's interesting because you just don't think about that. So my other thing is, where has this book been? People need this, right? Like, this is it.
It where has it been is that this is such a sensitive and hard topic that even professionals in this space
Yes. Yes,
aren't
Heather.
having these conversations in their own marriages. I'm gonna
Yeah.
be real with you. I have been, like, soft launching the ideas in this book at wealth management conferences over the last few years, and I can't tell you even how many male advisors were, like, repelled
Yeah.
by the concept of this book.
Yeah.
And there
Yeah.
is there is a piece of this where I think, you say, like, there's people that probably don't want this book to exist.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well,
I I
so
I
yeah.
I hate to say that, but,
No,
like,
I mean, yeah,
the way that, like, there's and you'll see, I mean, like, we tell a lot of this book is story driven, right? I
love
consider this
that.
book a series of love stories that have to do with money. And that's the way that
Love that.
I believe it should be written, because I believe we have to meet people where they are, and people don't wanna be lectured. They wanna see a little sliver of themselves in somebody else and use that to change their lives. And that's the reason we wrote it this way. But I think there's a lot of messages that we have to examine more closely, not only as a society and as individuals, but also, like, professionals and the way that they approach their work and their industry, and the way that they take this to their clients to help facilitate better conversations. So I think there's, like, I mean, I know you asked, like, where's this been, kind of in, like, a general sense, but, like,
No, I
I
get
can
it.
tell you, like, there's reasons why this hasn't
I mean,
existed.
that's the same reason I Googled divorce registry and nothing came up. I know now why there's no divorce registry out there. Doug, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, I think, things come together in a certain place and a certain time to
Yeah.
even be able to have the ability to conduct this type of conversation. Would people 20 years ago, without all of the resources we have, whether that be online or through your favorite podcast, be willing to share these stories, be willing to dive into this type of stuff? I don't know. I don't think so. I also think, to hype up Heather and I here a little bit,
Mhm.
dynamic that, is hard to come by. It truly is. And I mean that not just from who we are and our personalities and our ability to connect and talk to people, which we love to do, but also just from our actual backgrounds, the
Yeah.
story that Heather will share about herself, paired to marrying a financial professional, able to actually look at all of this through an academic lens, right? Through a professional practitioner lens,
Yeah.
and you get this perfect mix where you have an amazing writer and storyteller, with her own story paired with a professional. They put all this together in 2023, 4, and 5, and it just, there you go. There's some magic that gets
Yeah.
created there, and you're see that.
Yeah. Yeah. Heather, what were you gonna say?
I think, I can't wait for readers to read the third section of our book, which is called Contributions. And it's all about reconfiguring what it means to contribute to your family. I think the idea itself needs a rebrand. And I think our society is more ready and open to accept that now than they were even 10 years ago. Like, look, I mean, there's all sorts of studies and information and organizations out there for dads who want to be more involved
Right.
in
Right.
in caregiving, for example.
Mhm.
And I think maybe we're not given the space to kind of even say, I want to bring my whole self to my family and my work. It is a holistic conversation that I don't know if we were, like, ready for before. But the whole notion, I think what lives at the heart of our book is so much about um, caregiving and how we provide, and the concept of what it means to provide. The outdated concept of what that means was, like,
Right.
Yeah.
bring in an income. That's what it
Right.
means to provide.
Right.
And by limiting it in that sense, you are devaluing the work of caring for the people that you love,
Mm.
not only
Mhm.
children, but parents, your spouses, other people that you love. It's
Yeah.
such a huge piece of leveling the playing field and respecting people for the work they do, and in turn giving them back value to their time.
Yeah. We look at how society values traditionally what contribution was. I mean, we can point all day long at this as a generational divide. And by the way, it is. I mean, the gap between millennials and their baby boomer counterparts, I would argue, is a much wider gap on the definition of contribution and what these structures look like than our parents are to their grandparents,
Yeah.
whether it's because of technology or the rise of two incomes in one household. All of these things have contributed to really creating this gap, which in turn is, pretty fertile soil and a pretty ripe environment to now have these types of conversations. Um, and again, it's not because things got easier; it's because things objectively got harder.
Mm, mm. I think something, and I haven't read the book yet, but I can tell just from listening to you talk about it, something that I have a lot of issue with not just money books, but any relationship advice or books or anything, is that they're not actually digging into how conversations really happen in households, right? And that's something I talk a lot about, right? It's like, well, actually, somebody gets up and slams the door. That's not going to be like sitting there across the table, like, let's budget together, right? That's
Right.
not how it works.
Right. No,
Yeah.
And,
a
one of the
percent.
things that we wanted to show people in this book is that, and I think one of the most surprising things for me, and somebody asked me this the other day, and it's been at the top, it's been at like just in the front of my head, is like one of the most surprising things when we did start speaking and interviewing all these couples about money was that there was just as much that wasn't being said and so much to infer from what wasn't being said, who was doing the speaking, what they were saying, how their confidence came across when they spoke about money. There was so much to glean. So these books that kind of set up like a how-to guide
Yeah.
to sit down and budget and
Right.
set up your bank accounts, that's not like so so much like there's more than one instance where we say to you like, when's the right time? I don't know. I can tell you when the wrong time is though, and
Yes.
Yeah.
lay out some of those for you.
Yes. Yes.
You
I
know,
do the same thing with people ask me, like, when should I tell my partner I want a divorce? I can tell you, don't do it before you're going to drop the kids off for school, right? It's like, but there's a lot of wrong times. Doug, what were you going to say?
Yeah, and here's the thing I think a lot of books maybe don't get right, or anytime you have, here is a guide to they're literally okay, money and your life. All right. The connection is that money will always change. It beats to the drum of your life, right? Because big events usually mean big changes in your financial structure and what you need to do. And by thinking that you can create a guide to capture, how life is supposed to go
Right.
for any individual is insanity to think you can. There are best practices. Sure, when you think about numbers and budgeting, a very boring topic, we didn't want to do that. And again, back to like stories, when you share the stories of how other people are living their lives, you are getting a much better idea of
Yeah.
how to start that conversation. Again, what I said a second ago, come in here, read this. You feel this? This is
Mm-hmm.
where we are in our life right now. Guess
Yep.
what's going to happen after that? You actually are going to have that conversation.
Yeah.
It's not going to, like, here's the prompt to open the door to a conversation around your childhood trauma around money.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's not organic at all. What's
Yeah.
is reading someone else's story about that and relating to it. And then before you know it, you're actually having a real conversation in the context of your own life.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you really don't know when you marry somebody, where did they go clothes shopping when they were growing up? Did they get thrift store clothes? Did they get Gap? Like, you have no idea. I think it reminds me a lot of like what happened with Fair Play, right? It was this new conversation that people were like, I'm reading this book and this looks like our household. How can we have these conversations?
I have a fun fact that I mean, Eve Rodsky is a huge inspiration to me, and she has graciously contributed to this book.
I'm
And
not surprised.
when I first watched the documentary, which I think was my introduction to the work, I had done what I hope people will do with our book, which was I paused it and I said, Doug,
Yeah.
you need to get in here. You need to watch what's
Yeah.
happening here
Yeah.
because this is helping to explain to you the way that I've been feeling better than I ever had the words to do because I didn't have the words to explain the way that I felt and how unfair our dynamic had become And it
Yeah.
wasn't because we didn't love each other. It wasn't because we weren't paying attention. We've always been, since we, kind of started our adult lives together and got married and had kids, we've always been incredibly attuned to one another. But it still happened to us because life happens. Like, it's not always someone's fault. It's not always one person's fault. Sometimes life
Right.
happens to you. And it's when you're not checking in enough and not communicating enough in the right way, that that's where damage gets done. It erodes. It
Yeah.
can erode slowly over time as well. So I think
100%.
it's
Yeah.
interesting you brought her up because that's what I hope. I hope that somebody will be reading this and say, "Hey, read that one chapter. This
Yeah.
is
No,
literally us."
this book is gonna change people's lives, absolutely. Yeah, I know
I hope
that for a fact. Yeah.
we hope so.
Heather said it best, and I will always remember when I was called into the room and I watched that portion of the documentary, and I was just like, "Oh shit!" It's like there it was, and what's wild is how it really set the tone, not just for being an inspiration to this book and having a really great way to get people to hopefully share a similar experience and change behaviors or have conversations. But just a moment in time where my own behaviors would begin to change. So again, the power of storytelling as real as it can get here, and I think that's how you have to approach something that's inherently as messy and deeply rooted in your emotions around who you are. Your identity, it's identity,
Right.
right? It's your anytime someone's identity gets challenged, it is fight or flight.
Yeah.
They're either gonna
We
lash out at you or
Yeah.
walk away
well,
from you.
we make Right,
Go
we
for it.
make that point in the first section of our book, which is all about beginnings. It's 7 chapters about the beginnings of your life that formed your money behaviors as an adult. And there's a chapter about culture, which is like way too big of a topic to tackle in one chapter. It could have been an entire book in
Yeah.
itself, but we
Yeah.
tried. But the main point we wanted to get across was like, you could be like hounding your partner about their spending, but if their spending habits are rooted in some sort of cultural script that they've taken from their childhood and the way that their parents always spent and the way their peers spent and their whole community, they don't hear that you're railing on them for their spending. They hear that you are attacking their culture, their grandma's cooking. That's what they hear. You are, what you're saying is an affront to the way
Yeah.
that they grew up. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what they hear. And
Yeah.
so it's important. It's less important what those cultural scripts are and more that we acknowledge that they exist and how they can come out and
Right.
how people manifest those in their lives, the way they communicate around money, the way they believe they have permission to spend and earn money, which I think was an interesting one. How some people, when you grow up in an environment where, let's say, like there's food insecurity, for example, um, your your scrappiness and willingness to do whatever it takes to live a certain life
Yeah.
might be different than someone who grew up with the
Yeah.
proverbial silver spoon in their mouths. So
Right.
Yeah.
I think that there's just, oh man, there's just so much to unpack.
So much. Yeah. Doug, what were you gonna say?
No, go for it. I think that is crushed now.
No, she did.
God.
I really feel like, and I'm not gonna say this as an exaggeration, but the two of you are starting a revolution. And, like, I really do, because
I
I
hope so.
think it's really important. I hope I say this correctly. It's really important that when we have conversations about challenging identity, and I say this especially about men, that there are men like Doug who are kind, gentle humans who want to make the change, right? Who say, "Yes, I am sitting down at the table with you and this is not going to be comfortable, but I'm not going anywhere," right? Because I think that our narrative so much is like, he's going to get up and leave and he's not going to want to be part of the family. And I'm going to challenge him on, changing the baby's diapers more and this and that. And like, he's not going to want to take part in this. And money touches every single aspect of your soul and identity and your sex life and your cooking habits and your parenting and your relationships with your friends. And I think that the two of you doing this together is such a great example of, like, you guys obviously are madly in love. You have a great relationship. And Doug wanted to make the change,
Did.
and you wanted to make a change, Heather, and you showed up to be that person for somebody else. And I think that's really important to talk about.
Thank you, Olivia.
I think there is just some evergreen, themes that, even supersede the lessons and the sections of this book. And, when I think about what we do for a living and I think about the kind of thought leadership we're trying to put out there, I come back to, what's most important to people in their lives. And these are the four that I've come up with. And people will order them in any way that they want. But I'll order them in my way. And the first most important thing is time, most precious commodity. You don't get more of it. So that's number one. I care about my time and how it's being spent. The second is family. So these are the people you love, you do anything for. I'd literally step in front of a moving train for my children, my wife, my family. And then the third is money. Without money, you are unable to do the things that you want to do in your life. You need that currency. And then four is spirituality or religion. People, are very much, brought up usually in some kind of religious, structure. And look, for time, people have schedules. For their family, they'll do anything, right? For money, this is the one where like people probably don't do the stuff that they need to be doing, having hard conversations. How many people just don't budget and wing it? I mean, the boring stuff, budget over to the hard conversations.
Right.
People go, church or temple every Sunday, to practice their spirituality. So not only are all of these things connected, right? But yet it's the money one that we struggle, I think, the most with in building consistency, habits, behaviors.
And one of the
Hopefully
most Yep,
this,
sorry, no. Sorry. It's always hard when we're like, he's just another talking
No, but
head.
he's giving you the microphone every single time, which just goes to show you what a gentleman he is.
He does. I think the thing and one of the things that I hope this project does and that will break down the barrier for men who have resisted the conversation and for women who are disengaged or afraid of having the conversation.
Yeah.
Is for people to see that Doug and I have both sat in the driver's seat of our relationship. It's never been one, it's never just been one, like life has happened to us as well. And that we've gotten it right and we've gotten it really wrong. And it's your ability to recover from that and to find a way forward. And because I think that when people get too locked in, and this is like, again, a common theme of the book that I think will help to kind of like ease people into realizing that there is no shame in wanting to fix something. There is no shame in wanting to do better. In fact, you owe it to the person that you love to be curious about them. You owe it to them to take stock in how they feel things are going in your relationship, whether they feel that their needs are being met financially, emotionally, professionally. You owe it to them. But one of the things that I really want to show not only is how we worked back to these places, but that like, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You can't account for anything. Like life, like we're millennials. Like we've lived from one unprecedented time to the next. Like if COVID didn't happen, I don't know if we would have ever found ourselves having these conversations. It was the hardest time in our adult lives. But I don't know if we would have ever been doing this had that not happened. So it's not an everything happens for a reason, but it's more like the best thing you can do is accept that you don't know what's going to happen and prepare for anything rather than get locked into one idea of how your future's got to look and have this rigid perception of your path forward.
Yeah.
Part of the beauty of life is not knowing. Part of the exciting part of risk is opportunity. And if you're not enjoying the ride you're on with your family, your spouse, your kids, what are we even doing? And so there's a lot of that too.
Yeah, but that comes back to trust.
Sure.
Right. And so you need to trust your partner to have the conversation starters and to be on that ride of life together. And I'm just excited that you are going to illustrate this for people and put it out there and give them examples of what all of these different situations look like.
Thank you.
There are parts of this journey for readers where, if there isn't a willingness out of both partners to engage in arguably tough conversations. Not all of it are, but
Yeah.
the real work. Nothing worth doing is easy, period. In any aspect of your life, this particularly. If there's not that willingness to take, even if it's a baby step forward in the right direction, those readers are going to, learn some hard truths about where they are in their own relationship and their life. And
Yeah.
we'll stop there. And I'm sure
Yeah, no, I mean, that's
that, that, that
important.
that might go beyond the scope of where we are as professionals, but in just doing that, in having that light bulb go off, it's going to be helpful so that people then have
Yes.
the opportunity to say, whoa, I'm not getting buy-in from you to do things that's for us, that's for our family, that's for our children and our goals. That can be super scary, just
Yep.
showing up at Blue and me telling Heather, hey, Heather, we're not connecting, on a number of levels, especially a financial level. And her saying to me, I don't care.
Right. Yeah.
I don't, what do you, that's just about saying, I don't care about our relationship.
Right.
But the reality is, most people who are in committed relationships do care. And this is
Mhm.
why
Well,
when
and if
you
they
bring,
don't, that is the indicator
Right.
that you have to question, is there a future here? And we do speak about that too.
Yeah.
There is a chapter that goes deep
Yeah.
on financial infidelity
Yeah.
and perpetual financial
Mhm,
infidelity
mhm,
as
mhm.
one telltale sign of like, are you evolving and are they standing still? Are they going to allow this to evolve into a place
Yeah.
of healing and radical transparency to rebuild that trust? Or is it not? And it's time to walk away. That
Yeah.
that point has to be made, and we tried to make it.
Yeah.
and I think what's, we still did something very classic. These stories will give you the prompts you need inherently to
Mhm.
have more in-depth conversations, but we still included questions at the end of each section.
Good. People need that.
Oh, yeah, and you'll be able to take them anywhere you go. We got creative with that. But these questions are there for when you when you agree to have the money date. Heather and I go on walks and talk about this stuff. We play tennis and talk about this stuff. And sometimes we just go get a cocktail or have dinner
Yeah.
and get into a lot of the questions that, readers will have at their disposal to have prompts if, the story, even if the stories aren't connecting here. So we try
Yeah.
to really approach it from all angles to hook you up in figuring out everything from your partner's willingness. And if they are willing, how do you then engage and improve?
Yeah. Literally, I could talk about this with you forever. But
For sure.
I don't wanna take up more of your time because I want you to finish the book and get it out there. So, when can we pre-order this book, and where can we pre-order it?
Right now.
You can
Okay, let's do
pre-order
it.
it right now,
Yeah,
wherever
do it
books are
right now.
sold.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have an amazing website we just put up for the book. It's domoneytogether.com. If you hit up our socials, you'll find links to everything. But that website will tell you everything you need to know about the book. It'll let you pre-order the book at your favorite retailer. And that's really just kind of the go-to for all things book related.
But I think it's
Amazing.
also worth saying that Doug and I write about couples and money and love
Oh, yeah.
and related stories every single week in our Substack, which is called The Joint Account, and you can
Mhm.
find us there too.
Yep, it's one of the only Substacks that I, subscribe to. I will put the
Oh,
links to that in the show notes as well. Before I let you go, I would just love some wise words from each of you. If somebody's listening to this and they're like, "Ooh, this sounds scary to me. Like, this is like, I'm afraid to buy this book." What would you say to them, Heather?
I would say to them, I'd give them a little bit of the tough love that I do give in the book, especially for women who have been disengaged. I would say that power is not something you find, it's something you create. And that I'm going to get emotional. You owe yourself. You owe it to yourself to step into your power around money. It's not just about power over your spouse. It's not just about a fight of who's going to win the battle, right? That's not what this is about. It's about you. And it's about stepping into your feelings, your emotions, your dreams, your control, your agency, and your voice in the world. And that's what it's about. Oh, sorry.
No, I love it. I love it. It's because you're worth it, right? It's because you're worth it. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, it's too bad you don't have emotions about your own book, Heather. Yeah.
Man, I'm a mess. I'm I'm turning 40 soon. Like, there's a lot going on.
I just turned 40, and it's fantastic because you stop caring what anybody thinks. Um,
Feeling that too.
Welcome to the 40 club,
yeah,
ladies.
yeah. Okay, Doug. So what would you say to a guy that's afraid to jump into this?
Yeah, I think on the opposite side of fear is love. And, you know, there are a few pure things that we get to experience in our life. The love I have for my family and my children. That's just top-notch stuff, right? How many plutonic memes or posts have we seen about, hey, I think I just did it the other day. Like if your children and your family love you, like you've already won. You've already won. So just remember, if you're willing to conquer a fear, particularly around money in your relationship, what's waiting for you is more love, a deeper connection, greater companionship. And I haven't found too many people who don't want those things. So let that be your motivation to go after, these things that you probably want the most. You
Mhm.
know, um, Heather says in the book, you deserve a life, greater than riches. Um, and I think those words really captivate, what's waiting for anyone who's willing to put in the work to strengthen their relationship, particularly around their partner and money.
I love it. I cannot wait to see this book in the world. We will put all the links in the show notes. Heather, Doug, thank you for putting yourselves out there. I know it's not easy to be like the first people to really start the conversation about something. And I do know from my heart of hearts, this is going to be the first of many books that you write and the first of many things you do because you two are so beautifully passionate about helping people through these hard conversations. And I'm just so excited to watch what happens next. So please go buy the book and we'll keep this conversation going. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us, Olivia.
Thanks, Olivia.